We would talk about sex all the time. I've sent you nudes before. We would talk about having sex, sleeping in the same bed, but then I come here and that's all changed.
Talking is something, and the reality is something.
I told you it takes 2 hours sometimes to go home because of the traffic, and it just...
I thought you were exaggerating. I mean, I don't get mad, but...
Yeah, we're mad.
I'm gonna be more jealous now.
Why?
Because I see what a prize that you are.
I have to go down to deal with my business with my divorce, so you're still going to be in the country when I get there. You know, I'm going to find out for you what the real story is.
I believe her parents were intentionally sabotaging us, making sure that she was as broke as possible. This is actually the third time Sheena's lied to me about giving her parents money.
Forrest is destroyed. Do you not understand that? How could you do this to him, to our family? You on any love he had for you. There is no excuse as far as I'm concerned. Forrest needs to end the relationship with you.
We can all agree that trust is important and that it is something that should be earned, that should be valued. But there's a point on the show where I feel like trust becomes like an expectation of servitude. And that doesn't sit right with me. I think that we're seeing some entitlement when it comes to sex, when it comes to access, when it comes to autonomy. And of course, the tried and true family member, aunt, mother, overstepping to the point that they're verbally insulting the foreign partner. And it just makes me ask myself, is any of this worth it? We have a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days. We are in episode 2. I feel like we are hitting the ground running in this season. We have a lot to discuss, so as always, I will be putting in the timestamp so that you can skip around as you please. And while you're here, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hype, all of the things. It really does help me out. There's a lot of people out there that haven't found me and that maybe like this kind of long form content, so make sure to share it so that they can join us. And I'm gonna start this off, you guys, with Rick and Trish. I feel like the more we learn about this couple, the more I don't trust Rick. Is that just me? So we see him have a tearful goodbye with his sister, yada yada. They're really close. He's here thinking about, how excited he is that he's going to Madagascar and that, it's really hard for him to be a single dad and he really wants someone to share his life with. But the way that he talks about it to me feels like he's looking for someone to complete his picture. He doesn't really give me the vibe of a guy that's willing to help someone else's future blossom.
I've been through multiple relationships that just didn't work out. And it's very lonely being a single father. And I'm ready to have somebody to go home to every night. I want to fill that void and have that family unit again.
This guy has no business being with a 25-year-old whose life is just beginning. It sounds like he wants someone that is just going to do what he wants and fulfill his image of family, but I don't think that he's really here to ride the trenches in someone else's path. So I'm just like, Then they take us to Madagascar and we see Trish and we see her as a midwife, and she talks about, just her love for babies and how in her tribe it's a belief that every woman should have a baby, and it just explains her baby fever. It's not just a girl that's ready to tie a guy down. It comes from her lineage and working so closely to babies. She wants one of her own. So I get it. I don't think I've ever seen what Madagascar looks like, so that's why I love this show. I love when they show us all the B-roll of the place. She mentioned specifically, and I think that this is foreshadowing, she says that Madagascar has many tribes, and the tribe that she's from tends to be more aggressive, very in your face if they don't like something. And I'm curious if we're going to be able to see an instance of that with Mr. Macho Man Rick. But we see her roaming around the town, and where she's originally from is a more remote town. But she ended up in this little bustling city with her ex-boyfriend, who she was with for 3 years. And she says that he ended up cheating on her so many times and she had enough. And the reason she's drawn to Rick is because he's so faithful and that he's such a great dad. They pan to Rick at the airport and he's like, yeah, I'm stressed out because, I have so much to answer to for the things that I did in those 5 days of despair.
I have to come clean and tell her everything that I did for those 5 days when she ghosted me. I was just going through so much hurt and pain, and I know that I acted very impulsively.
Sir, you are a grown-ass man. You know that whatever happened during those 5 days, you should have told her before you got your ass on a plane. So I don't even want to hear this woe is me. But anyway, she's at the hotel that he booked because apparently Mr. Rick was very particular. She wanted to stay at her place and welcome him there. He wanted AC. So they're at this hotel. We see her get really cute. There's a scene of her getting on a motorcycle, like a motorcycle taxi, in this mini dress. And it brought me back because that's literally just everyday life in the Dominican Republic as well. Like sometimes it's cheaper to get on those motorcycle taxis. So it was just so funny. I was like, wow. But anyway, she gets herself to the airport. She's waiting for him to come out. She is shaking, you guys. She is so nervous, so excited, so giddy. I thought she was going to pass out. And when she sees him come through the doors, she runs so fast, she leaves her sandals behind. Just straight up barefoot at this airport. And they have such an intense moment, you guys.
My baby.
I'm so perfect, man. Oh, baby, don't cry. Oh, baby. Don't cry, baby. Just hold me, baby. Don't cry.
It was intense. I thought that they were going to start making out and doing the deed right then and there. And he's like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. I got you, baby. And she's like shaking in his arms and it was a lot. And don't get me wrong, they are aesthetically a very beautiful couple, but the age difference really throws me off every single time. I'm just like, ugh. But anyway, he's like, wow, like seeing you is confirmation of my feelings, which I don't know how. I think that it's confirmation of your lust. It's a confirmation of your attraction, but you really haven't had a conversation to be like, yeah, you're the girl I love. So immediately I'm like, Rick, stop talking. But the more he talks, the more of a picture we get to see about them, really. So they are in a cab. It's taking them forever to get to the hotel because of the traffic. And she tells him, I told you about the traffic. I told you that it usually takes me about 2 hours to get home.
It's like you only go 1 block per hour.
Yeah, and we are still far.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I told you it takes 2 hours sometimes to go home because of the traffic, and it just...
I thought you were exaggerating.
Remember, Mr. has mentioned his trust issues, but he made it seem like his trust issues stemmed from her disappearing for 5 days. But now we get a clearer picture that his trust issues happened way before. This is just who he is, and I think that that is a red flag. Your insecurities are your problem. Definitely, your partner shouldn't feel them, but just because you are insecure doesn't mean that you get to be a control freak. And apparently, he was like, oh, well, I thought you were exaggerating because, it would take you forever to get home and you wouldn't text me right away. You would start cooking and doing stuff before calling me. So now it's a problem that she takes care of her needs in her home because she needs to check in with you because you're a grown ass man. Like that for me was so alarming.
And it kind of made me question a little bit because you would tell me that you're gonna call me back when you get home, and then I wouldn't hear from you for hours and hours. Part of that is your fault too, because you don't call me as soon as you get home. You get to cooking and all of that.
I don't want to eat.
I understand that, man.
And it's also just like a slap in the face because she's like, I've told you time and time again about how long it takes me to get home, and you have invalidated that because you think that I'm a harlot. And so even in that moment, he's like, yeah, I mean, I guess you're right, but still, like, that's so crazy. And then he's like, I was paranoid before, but now seeing you, how beautiful you are, like, I'm going to be even more paranoid now.
Maybe I don't get mad every time.
All the time, Rick. You don't believe what I said. Everything I say.
Don't say everything, but I'm gonna be more jealous now because I see what a prize that you are, and my feelings are so much deeper already.
And I didn't think that was funny or cute. I considered that a threat. And this is like the second time too that he's mentioned there being competition in Madagascar. When he was prepping to leave to meet her at the airport, he like washed his face and like wet his hair. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I gotta look good because I'm sure there's competition here."
I tell it's a lot of competition out here. A lot of these men probably own my woman. I'm about to claim my steak.
He is fighting invisible forces because this girl is here for him. And I just think that that can get ugly really fast. So that car ride interaction, I was not feeling it. You guys can let me know your thoughts in the comments. It was just very concerning to me. But she's pushing that aside because she thinks that he's such a good man. They get to their hotel and he's really proud of himself for the hotel he picked out. She showers first so that she can like slip into lingerie for him. Y'all, he showers, and I'm glad that they showed us that they showered. I want you to clock that because there are so many people on the show that have traveled like 20 hours at a time, are musty and dusty, and want to lay on a bed to have sex. And that is just criminal activity. Criminal. So I just thought it was very enlightening that the melanated folk, first thing they do is shower and moisturize before they do the deed. Anyways, he sees her in the lingerie, honey. He has a towel that's about to come off. He is making out with her. He's like, "Please turn down the lights. Camera crew, leave." And they don't leave. So we see them make out a little more. And you just know it's going to be good. They have a lot of passion. They seem to have a lot of chemistry. And it's all fun and games until I remember the age. Anyway, let's move on to the next. All right, you guys. So the next couple is a new one. We're being introduced to Stig and Aviva. And Stig seems to be everything that Mr. Soldier Boy thinks he is because he's a big star in Belize. This guy travels all over. He's booked and busy. Meanwhile, Aviva is a normal girl. She's a dental assistant and she apparently, went to Belize because her aunt will live there, and she tagged Belize and he slid in her DMs, and they've been talking for some time. They've been talking for years, but in the last 6 months, it became romantic. So she's actually going to go meet him for the first time. However, things are a little shaky every time she talks about this man.
Well, we've talked on and off for years, but for the past 6 months, we have been taking it more and more seriously.
I definitely wouldn't jump straight into marriage. You'll put in so much love and so much time, and he will literally make your head explode.
Because her aunt has been burned. Her aunt was married to a guy from Belize, and she's in the middle of a divorce. Why do you ask? Because she saw that he was getting arrested on TV. Not only that, he was getting arrested with his side chick.
And I actually lived in Belize for over 20 years. I met my husband in Belize when I was 28. But 2 years ago, I turned on the news and he was being arrested with another girl.
And so because her aunt is hurt right now, the men are the enemy. And she is not a fan of her niece potentially getting heartbroken by a guy from Belize. And she has eyes and ears everywhere, okay? And so they're at this dinner table and she's like, "Yeah, he was performing at a concert last week. And, he wrote a song about Vicky. Did you know?" These two have only been romantic for 6 months and he's an adult. Yes, he's going to have songs about other people. Like, it's going to happen, I don't think she's naive to that. But then the auntie is like, "Well, the girl Vicky that he wrote the song about, she was at the show. And I heard that they left together." Aviva is used to this. You can tell she's so used to her auntie just yapping. And she's like, "No, I don't believe that. Like, I understand that you're looking out for me, but like, I don't believe that. And it's okay. Like, let's leave it at that." And the auntie's like, "Well, I'm just trying to warn you. Would you like to know now or in 20 years like me?"
I have to go down to deal with my business with my divorce in like 2 weeks. So you're still going to be in the country when I get there, it sounds like. I'm going to find out for you what the real story is.
And here's the thing. We haven't met Stig, so I'm going to hold my judgments. But I think for me, immediately a red flag of this is that I need Aviva to have a backbone in the sense that she's already speaking of herself as like a supporting character in the story. And I'm like, no, girl, you don't have to be a fan forever. Like, what you have to say matters, your boundaries matter, like all of those things. So I'm just very curious to see what it's gonna be like when they're together. But you can tell that she's still like really excited that this artist, is interested in her. I think she's gorgeous. And I think that when she goes to Belize, she has to keep her eyes open.
I just keep replaying the airport moment when I first see him in my head, because he told me that every time he goes to the airport, people come up and try and talk to him. I think that makes me even more nervous because I want to look my best. I know I might have some competition out there.
I think with her, just like with Emma, I'm like, you guys are meeting this man for the first time and are expecting a ring? That's insane to me. And also, like, why are you in such a rush to be locked in with someone that you don't even know if you can trust? Someone that you don't know is loyal to you yet? Someone who you haven't really lived with? Kissed even? Like, what's the rush? But also, the last thing I'll say about these two, she asked him what he wanted from America and he said Chinese food. And I get it, our Chinese food is really good. However, her just packing that up in a random bag is diabolical because it's gonna smell disgusting. Like, just freeze it or put it like in an appropriate casing. But to just throw it in a bag and then get on a plane like that? But anyway, I'm really curious to see how this is going to unfold. Is this going to be a Kimberly Soldier Boy situation? She doesn't seem like as jealous and she seems ready to be very understanding, but I think that that's my fear. I'm like, girl, do not let this man walk all over you. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's move on to Emma and Ziad in this episode. The way that this is so dramatic already for no fucking reason. Like imagine being so diabolically horny that you're picking a fight about this even before you've had your first kiss with this man. Like, imagine. It is just so ridiculous. Like, if it was the other way around, if it was a man picking a fight at the airport because you just texted him that you needed him to be respectful in public and that you didn't want him to be sexual with you, and he picked a fight like this, we would be going on about this forever. So I'm just like, Miss Plastic needs to take it down a few notches.
He's coming here telling me, like, don't do this, don't do that, respect me, respect my religion. He has never once talked about his religion. He's never once said it was an issue. We've talked so many times about meeting in the airport, kissing in the airport, that like I can't even say, like, oh, do you like my boobs? Like, something that's so small.
And they're clearly just at odds. She's claiming that he's never talked about religion and that they've talked so much about sex. And I'm like, wait, yes, I do believe that he's definitely talked about sex with you. I definitely believe that y'all have been sexting and that you've been saying, I want to do this and I want to do that. And he hasn't told you no. I believe that. However, you did know he was Muslim because you mentioned it. And you've dated a Muslim guy before, and and you've been to Morocco, and you know what the expectation is. And I believe that when Ziad lied to her, she wanted to believe it, but she didn't question it, and she should have. Ziad should not have lied. And I think in him not stopping her, because I think they played back the scene where she was like, we're going to do everything night one, right? He didn't say yes, but he also didn't say no. And he didn't tell her, hey, babe, remember we talked, like, in public, I can't do this, I can't do that. And the more that we watch them, the more I believe that he's down to do everything. I just don't think that he appreciated her putting it on blast on TV. Clearly, he was down if he was allowing you to send him nudes. You know what I mean? I just think that he doesn't want to be exposed and get in trouble. So I think Emma is being loud and cock blocking herself. That's my take, okay? But they're being so passive aggressive. They're both equally immature. He's grabbing the luggage. She's not helping at all. He's like, okay, walk. And she's like, no, you walk. And it's just so painful. It takes them forever to leave the Marrakesh airport. And so they're in this car with this big ass luggage in between them because there's barely any space in the trunk and she packed a lot. And at 1 minute she's bickering with him. The next minute she's like, ooh, shiny. As she's looking at things outside. They pull up to their stop. They have like a 2-minute walk to their riad. And I remember this when I went to Marrakesh. I was like, where are we? It looked like we were in the middle of nowhere. And then you go through this little door. You have to like crouch down. And then you get into this most beautiful place. And that is how the Riyadhs are over there. And oh my God, at the end of this video, I'll make sure to include some pictures from my trip. I went in like, I want to say 2010 or 2011. It was gorgeous. But anyway, they pull up to this Riyadh and she is just taken aback. It's so gorgeous. And she's like, are you going to stay with me? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to stay at this Riyadh with you, just in another room. And she's like, what? You told me you were going to stay with me. And he's like, you know that I can't. And here's the thing. I think I told some of you in the comments my theory. I believe that Emma has watched this show. I think she's a fan. That Darcy changing scene, she studied it. Okay? So you're going to tell me that you haven't seen the episode where Nicole and Hassan stayed at a Riyadh and he thought the cops were coming for him the next day because they snuck in and slept in the same room? Y'all remember that? It's just by law. You're not allowed to stay together until you are married. I could tell that he likes her, but he's also nervous, right? And he's trying to just take things step by step, but I think she wants to go from 0 to 100. And it's just, she's not reading the room. It's just too much, you know? But he takes her to her room. He gives her the biggest one. He gives her this Hamza bracelet with like the evil eye. Y'all, when I tell you everything I owned was Hamza when I came back from Morocco, I came back with everything. I don't have any of them left because I gifted them, but like I loved it. It's so gorgeous. And he gave her a really gorgeous bracelet. And she was just taken aback about how romantic everything was. And she was like, fine, I'll take it slow. She does not, because then we see them at dinner. He takes her to the rooftop. He arranged for someone to make them a traditional meal. They bring out the tagine. It's gorgeous. And they start reminiscing about, you know, their dating and like who messaged who what and the butterflies of it all. And she quickly switches gears and is like, so what are the expectations of boyfriend and girlfriend here? And he's like, well, we really can't do much until we're married. And she's like, but you told me we could do everything.
So we're not going to do anything sexual
No,
this whole trip.
it's not my choice or something. It's.
I know,
you
but
have to-
that's just not what you said before. We would talk about sex all the time. I've sent you nudes before. We would talk about having sex, sleeping in the same bed, but then I come here and that's all changed.
And it's the same fight, you guys. Again and again. This is so tired.
Talking is something, and the reality is something. As I see, for me, you are more interested in sex more than love.
And again, do not get me wrong. Do I believe that Zaid was telling her that he was going to put it down? Yes, I think that he's downplaying the situation, but again, I think that she's embarrassing him. But overall, it's just so uncomfortable to watch her like expect intimacy in that way. And again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, your insecurities are your problem. And like someone doesn't have to give you their body for you to feel like everything's okay. So I don't find what she's doing acceptable, but I think we do get a little bit of more insight as to why she's so in her head right now about him not wanting to, you know, do everything or like be willing to or even say that he is. She tells us that before this trip, she noticed that he was friends with a lot of women. And so she decided to do the same thing she did to her ex, where she messaged the ladies in his friends list. And one of them said that they used to talk. When she approached Ziad about it, he told her, this was before you and I started talking. Like, this is old news. Here's the thing. Even if there were blurred timelines, do you really have a leg to stand on when you were also dating your ex-fiancé while talking to this guy? Like, this isn't the hill you want to die on. And again, yes, physical intimacy is very important. And if that's important for her to have and she's not willing to wait beyond this trip, that is her prerogative. Just like it is his prerogative to not want to have intimacy. I think the issue comes when A, you pressure each other, and B, when you lie about it. So in my opinion, I think that they're both wrong. But just in general, I think that she's coming on very strong and she should just give it some room to breathe and like let him get more comfortable, let things build organically. Like, you guys have barely even hugged to even just jump to like, oh, we're gonna bang. I think that even if I wanted to bang you, if you pressured me with that kind of talk, it would be a complete turn off. Also, this is the first time that they're meeting. I feel like for a long time, when you're used to talking to someone on FaceTime or by text, when you see each other, it's like your mind, your body, like everything is trying to piece together the fact that you are the same person that they're talking to. We see this happen all the time on Love is Blind. So I just think that she needs to give it a minute. Also, like, you just got here. Do you know whether or not you like this man for real? It's just too much. So anyway, let's move on to the final couple. Okay, you guys. So we have to talk about Forrest&Sheena because I have beef with Molly. Molly is Forrest's mom. I think that she is out of pocket. But let me start at the beginning, okay? So Forrest is in here doing something that looks like Zumba or Zumba-esque. Him and Sheena are working out together virtually. They want to get each other in like tip-top shape. But I love how much they love each other no matter what, as they should. There's a moment that they talk and Sheena's like, do you think that we'll be able to have some time? Just you and I? And the fact that she even has to ask that lets us know that she knows that his parents are bound to overstep. But Forrest needs to remember that this is his trip and that his parents are not chaperones. They're there to support. Him and Sheena should have all the alone time that they want. And Forrest is still operating like a child because he's basically telling Sheena, well, my mom has a lot of, trust issues, so we really have to show her. We really need to plead our case. Because remember, in Forrest's mind, Sheena is not the guilty party. Her parents are, and he's ready to tell them, I'm going to take Sheena away from you. And I'm just like, okay, let's be respectful. Get your girl, but be respectful. Because clearly, if it was the other way around, you would have a problem if someone spoke to your mom like that. But Forrest does share with us what I basically assumed in the last episode, that her parents are giving her a hard time about money, and that anytime she saves money for her American dream, they basically threaten her. And things have not been great on that front. And, any immigrant kid knows that struggle, knows that specific brand of guilt when you are trying to get yourself ahead, but your family doesn't necessarily understand. So I really feel for Sheena. But then they do this thing where they're like, the morning of. Apparently, the morning of his departure, things are really tense, and he's like, something serious happened. It's that kind of breakup material. And I'm like, okay, what happened? Apparently, he had a check-in with Sheena where he's like, how much money do we have saved up for our American dream? And the last time they spoke months ago, she had $4,000. Well, the night before he flies out, Sheena makes a confession. Babe, I'm so sorry. I know you don't want to hear this, but I gave the money to my parents again.
Had asked Sheena about how much money she had saved up for the K1 visa. A year ago, almost 2 years ago, she said that she had about $4,000 saved up.
And he still believes that her parents are sabotaging her. However, I think the issue for him, and it would be for me too, it's the lying of it. Because don't say you still have the money, and then right when the bell strikes, you're like, oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I know you were planning for it, but like, I'm not ready. Like, he can't work with that,
Last night, she let me know that she has been giving all her money to her parents this entire time. This is the third time Sheena has lied to me about, giving her parents money, or even lied about saving money.
And I think the biggest mistake here is that Forrest can't keep anything locked in. So of course he immediately tells his mother, who's already like, oh my God, you need to break up with that girl. But I feel like context is very important. And, this whole time that I'm watching this, I'm like, show us Sheena. We need to meet her so that we can really like gauge the vibe.
I believe her parents were intentionally sabotaging us, making sure that she was as broke as possible. But it's complicated because she says her parents manipulate her and they threaten her every day with throwing her out on the street.
But what Forrest says is that her parents basically threaten her. If she doesn't give money, she'll get kicked out of the house. She will be homeless. And let me tell you something. Yes, you are her little virtual boyfriend of 7 years, but at the end of the day, she's alone in the Philippines, and that is all she has. And culturally, people live with their families until they're married. So I can just imagine the societal pressure. And so it's just too much. And so, but still, Forrest is gearing up to go on this trip. We see him, his mother, and his stepdad on the way to the airport, and she is adamant that they should not be together, that she's doing her best to support him. Ma'am, you're being really loud with your displeasure as well. So take that, right? But she's adamant that she needs to have a talk with Sheena's parents. And I love that her husband was like, well, we're going to their home, their culture, so you need to be mindful of that.
And that's why it's so important for me to go and talk to the parents. It's not right what they've been doing, and it definitely needs to be called up.
Molly, you got to remember that we got to go over there and understand their culture. Then maybe we'll understand more of who Sheena is, why she is.
That's a good point, honey.
And I love that, because imagine going to the Philippines and being a Karen. That is not your position. That is not your role. That is not how you support your son. Also, I think that it is patronizing as fuck. Like, at the end of the day, Forrest is an adult, Sheena's an adult, and they need to handle that. You're there to support, you're not there to be Forrest's mouthpiece, especially not Sheena's mouthpiece. You know what I mean? I think that if she really wanted to help, if she was really curious about the situation, she would have a conversation with Sheena where she would ask questions, try to get, the bigger picture, or at least advise Forrest on what questions to ask. But this energy that she's coming with is not it. And her husband, who looks like he's like indigenous maybe, or a person of color, he's like, hey, maybe not. Maybe don't bring that energy to someone else's house. And I was like, thank you. You are vital to this trip. But Molly and her hubby don't seem like they really leave the house much. So she's like oohing and awing throughout this entire journey. She's here talking about potential mall high club with her hubby. And I'm like, okay, keep yourself distracted with that, okay? While Forrest is having this existential crisis about his relationship. And as he's reminiscing on the situation with Sheena, he's also reminiscing about the Indonesia scam, which sounds a lot more dangerous. So Forrest has told us over and over again about how lonely life is for him. And so he was on a karaoke app, which I didn't know existed. And that is where he started talking to a girl from Indonesia. And then she arranged where he would stay, which sounds super dangerous, right? But he goes there. She takes him for all the money that he has. She just took him for everything. And he just felt just so alone. And he feels like Sheena is really his best friend, and he would really hate for this to happen again. I don't think that is the case with Sheena. I think that there is some dark shit happening on the back end, but I don't think she's a villain per se, but I think that she also needs a backbone. Because then we go to the Philippines and we meet her. She's a veterinarian, so that sounds like a good job, but I don't know if it's a good job in the Philippines. She seems like a sweet woman, but she's 40 years old. So I'm also like, girl, stand up to your parents. But I know it's easier said than done. I know. But she tells us she works 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. It's a very lonely life. She really doesn't have friends. She just spends her days at home playing video games. And now that Forrest is in her life, he is her world. He's brought color into it. She jokes that like she watches him on camera all the time, even when he doesn't know, which I could never. But then again, he clearly likes it, which is why he gave her access, We see her pull up to her home. It looks nice from the outside in comparison to some things that we've seen. So it looks like maybe they're like middle class for the Philippines, I'd say. But just like the way that she speaks and are like her mannerisms, she's 40 years old, but she's still very like childlike. And she tells us that she's been looking forward to Forrest coming, but she's very worried about Molly. And the things that she tells us, I'm like, you don't deserve that, Sheena. Should Forrest go off on you? Yes. He's your partner and you've done him dirty in the ways that you have? Yes. But I think it is a special kind of ugly when you have someone like their mom speak to you in the way that Molly has. So apparently when she confessed this last thing about giving the money to her parents and she told Forrest, She expected her and Forrest to unpack it together. But before they could even do that, he already told his mother. And Sheena proceeds to read horrific texts that Molly sent.
I am very disappointed, and my trust in you has been completely broken permanently. Forrest is destroyed. Do you not understand that? How could you do this to him, to our family? You on my son, you on your whole relationship, you on any love he had for you.
Forrest is so lucky that Sheena didn't just end it with him, because Molly basically ended it for him. She basically ended that relationship. She told Sheena that she ain't shit, that how could she hurt Forrest like that?
There is no excuse as far as I'm concerned. Forrest needs to end the relationship with you.
And I'm just like, this is a huge overstep. Huge. Because Forrest, if you want to be a grown man and do grown man things and be in a grown man relationship, this is unacceptable. Your mother cannot navigate all relationships for you. I will go as far as to say that what Molly did to Sheena is harassment. That was very disgusting. And Sheena's being too nice. I would have been like, actually, go F yourself. Like, how dare you talk to me like that in the phone that I pay for? Again, not saying that what Sheena did is okay. I think that she's in a very difficult decision. But I think that if she is working towards a life with Forrest, she needs to communicate certain things with Forrest. And Forrest, you need to lock that shit in your relationship. And I get that Molly wants to be protective, but I just don't think that this kind of interaction is within her bounds. She is out of bounds. And so Sheena's basically like, I am afraid that Molly's not going to stop until Forrest and I break up. And I think that that's right. I think that Molly's biggest fear is that Forrest is going to meet Sheena, realize that she is the woman of his dreams, and that he's going to want to leave everything behind in the Philippines and leave Molly alone. So I think Molly's doing everything she can to basically water any seed of doubt, any seed of insecurity that he may have about his relationship. Forrest is perfectly capable, period. He's perfectly capable of leading a life without his mother. And I think that Molly likes that she's needed, or that he makes her think that she's very needed for everything. But that, I feel like, in many ways, will set him back. So the way that I see this, I think that Molly is threatened by Sheena, and that in itself I find twisted. So I am very curious about how it's gonna go next week. That was it, you guys, for the recap. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Oh yeah, I told you guys I'd show you some pictures from Morocco. So I think I'll include some of the Riyadh. I'll include some of me like trying on, I think, this cute little outfit at a shop. I had so much mint tea at this shop. This beautiful like ancient ruins that I went to. And then, oh my God, we spent a few days in the Sahara Desert. Y'all, the sky looked painted on. I made out with one of those like tour guide. This is such like a 90-day situation, but I did kiss with one of those guys on a sand dune, and it was just so romantic. I wasn't delulu enough though to be like, give me your number. I was like, no, this is great for what it is. I will always have this story. But yeah, we spent a few nights there in these tents. It was freezing at night, but it was so beautiful during the day. We rode camels. I was terrified. But yeah, I loved Morocco. I would definitely go again. And yeah, what a time. But anyway, that was my tangent. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.